we go. That has begun. And so the first consent statement that you would fill out if we were in person is, I voluntarily agree to participate in this study, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. You've agreed to be audio recorded?
Yes.
Do you agree to be contacted for follow-up research is one part, and then the other part is for getting materials. They don't have to be together. So follow-up,
yes.
That's fine? Okay. Follow-up research would be if I wanted to do another interview or clarify anything. If I am able to physically move around and do some of the interviews, what I might try and do is double that with meeting up. Maybe do a focus group with activists. We'll see how that all pans out. Okay, so I'm going to say oral consent in the signature line, and I will date it 29th. 29th? That's today? May 29th. Wow. And I will sign it myself. Okay. And then the other piece is so you've given consent to be followed up, and you're interested in materials?
Yeah, I would be.
Yes? Okay, so I'll check both of those. And then, so I'll keep this information separate, but can you give me and spell your full name, and I'll write down the contact info here.
Yes, so it's I-A-N for my first name, and my last name is Borsuk, B-O-R-S-U-K.
Okay, great. And I know we were emailing, but just tell me your email address again. I'll write it down.
Yep, so it's my first name, middle initial, and last name. So it's Ian C. Borsuk @gmail.com.
Okay. And do you use Facebook?
Yes.
Would that be another potential place to contact you?
Yeah.
Same name?
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed you have a website also, so you'll probably be easier to find. And to be honest, the activists will be easier to find than the homeless young people. This sort of taking of multiple points of contact has really developed after my research with homeless youth who are harder to find. Would you be willing to share a phone number?
Yeah, so it's 905 515 7956.
So 905-515-7956.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you. Awesome. All right. Now, my notes and my questions. And I already asked this, but are there any more questions before we start in formally? Nope?
Nope.
All good? Okay, great. I'll take notes in my red pen. It'll be great. The recording will be going. Okay, good. So, I do not have to work all day again. No. That's my son. Yeah. COVID. Thankfully, I have a partner whose work is flexible, so he's been doing the bulk of the childcare. But in theory, we're supposed to be sharing the day, but all week I've had to work most days, and so that was my son. Yesterday, I told him we would spend the afternoon together, so we will after we're done. Okay, first question is actually not on the list, but should be, which is, how old are you?
I'm 29.
29, okay. And can you tell me a bit about your current work or school or living, well, living we'll get to separately actually, but your current daily situation?
Yeah, so right now I live and work in Hamilton, and I work for a small but mighty nonprofit advocacy group, environmental advocacy. So I'm essentially like a nonprofit lobbyist and community organizer.
Okay. What's the name of the organization?
Environment Hamilton.
Oh, nice. Okay. I lived in Hamilton for a number of years. I went to Mac, and then I lived there after for a while. I have a soft spot in my heart for Hamilton.
I love it here.
Yeah.
We have our troubles, but
sure,
very good people.
Every city does. Yeah. It's really where I cut my teeth in activism was in Hamilton. going to, and it was possible to go to almost everything that was happening in Hamilton because of the size of the city.
Yeah.
Nobody. Have you had lunch? After lunch. No, sweetie, go. Come on, go. I'm working. Sorry.
No problem.
After lunch. Bye. It's my 6-year-old son. No. Oh, but if I ask Dada. Can I have a freezie if I ask Dada? No, don't try. Oh my goodness. Dad's in the shower right now. That's why I'm getting the attention. Okay, sorry. So you're living in Hamilton. What are your sort of living circumstances? Are you in an owned home, a rental, shared home?
Yeah, I rent and live with my partner.
Okay. And just because I actually know Hamilton, what part of the city are you in?
We live in Strathcona, which is our backyard actually backs out onto the 403 highway. So the valley, where if you're thinking of King and Dundurn, sort of.
Yes.
We're in a little pocket on a street called Brettlebane.
Oh yeah.
And we back out onto the valley that is the 403.
Okay.
Sort of between York and King, very close to Dundurn Castle.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh, it's been a while since I've lived there, so all the bits are mixed up in my head, but I think I know where you are.
Landmarks that haven't changed.
They haven't changed, yeah.
And Dundurn Castle's a good one.
Yeah, Dundurn Castle. I used to live on James Street and all around that kind of downtown area.
Yeah.
And when I was at Mac, I lived in, gosh, what's it called? Westdale, that's right. So many different Wests, yeah. Okay, and so you're renting an apartment or a house or? A house, full house?
Well, the top 2 floors, and then the basement is also a rental unit.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell me a bit about your educational background?
Yeah, I got a high school degree, and then went to Concordia University and have an undergraduate degree in philosophy.
Okay, great. Did you go straight through from high school to university?
Yep.
So probably finished a little while ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the year.
Yeah, but you would have been 21-ish?
Yeah, I think it was 2013.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And what have you been doing since then?
Since graduation.
Yeah.
Graduated and then moved back to Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Through university, so right out of high school, the summer between my end of grade 12 and university, I worked for Greenpeace as a street canvasser.
Oh, yeah.
And then that job was difficult at times, and then in the second summer, I couldn't cut it. And then after working a couple other, menial jobs, I ended up working at a group called Toronto Environmental Alliance.
Yeah, I know them. Yeah.
Which is a very well-established environmental group in Toronto.
Yeah.
Doing fundraising because they were looking for fundraisers.
Yeah.
And then ended up doing some other jobs, communications work and things like that. So when I graduated university, I returned to work there.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of got a little burnt out talking to people, trying to get them to care about local environmental issues. And my mother got sick with cancer, so it was a bit of a burnout, and I ended up taking a little bit of time off.
Mm-hmm.
Then I worked for an organization called, I worked for a few different political campaigns. I'm just trying to think of all of it chronologically in my head.
Yeah.
Worked a few different political campaigns, mostly as a canvasser, but paid.
Yeah.
And then after the 2 municipal election cycles ago, after managing a campaign that was unsuccessful, but we tried hard, I was hired by No Jets TO, which was the successful campaign to prevent the Toronto Island Airport expansion. And then concurrently with that, I worked at a coffee roastery. Just so it's coffee roastery in the daytime, organizing in Etobicoke in the evenings. And when we won that campaign, I was out of work. There was nothing to pay me to do. So I continued to work at the coffee roastery for maybe about 8 more months, and then I saw the job posting at Environment Hamilton and applied. Came out for the interview. Obviously, definitely helped that the executive director at the time of Toronto Environmental Alliance knew everyone in Environment Hamilton, and he was willing to give me a reference.
Nice.
And I've been here ever since. So I've been at Environment Hamilton for just over 4 years now. Okay,
great. And so did you grow up in the Toronto area?
Yeah, I'm from Etobicoke.
Okay. I lived in Toronto and then Mississauga through some parts of my adolescence. Can you tell me a bit about your parents' background in terms of education and work?
So my dad has a university degree that I cannot recall what it is. He originally wanted to be a pharmacist, I believe, but then ended up doing sales in steel primarily. His parents were Ukrainian immigrants, and so I guess first generation Canadian. And then on my mother's side, she has a history degree from University of Windsor. I'm pretty sure. My dad went to U of T.
Okay.
And then, I hazard a guess that my mom was a stockbroker for a period of time and then office administrator. Very, very typical kind of Etobicoke middle class. We weren't necessarily, the way I would describe it is I grew up in sort of the center of Ford Nation, but we weren't necessarily the upper middle class of central Etobicoke. We were, I would say, very, very what people think of when they think of like middle class. Etobicoke is very typical.
Okay. This is not a formal question, but that is a little bit what I'm curious about, which is about parents, like kind of political leanings. You talked about growing up in Ford Nation, which, how did their politics manifest?
My parents would probably be best described when I was growing up as small L liberals. They no real partisan affiliation. They certainly changed how they voted. Never conservative though. My parents were firmly not a conservative couple, I would say.
Right.
And then I would say their politics has probably moved much more leftwards, probably due to my influence as I've gotten older. But I would say they were strongly committed to issues of fairness and things like that. But it was only their interest in talking about politics only really came about when I was interested in it. It was never really there was never installation of values, or at least of political values in me in any real concerted sense.
Yeah. Okay, so that actually leads us into the next question, which is how did you come to activism, and what issues or movements have you been involved with and are currently involved with? Obviously, environmental has been a big part.
Yeah, so I think the way it really started was I've always had an interest in those things. In maybe mid to late high school, I developed a keen interest in anarchism and communism, and read a lot of anarchist books in high school.
How did you get exposed to that?
Yeah, and then I think it was just a combination of the internet. I went to an arts high school, so I did not have a fun time in middle school, and I was very happy to kind of get out of my catchment area as well. And at the time, I wanted to be an actor, so I entered the drama program at an art school, and over time lost my interest in that. But that kind of helped me get separated from the typical norms. And typically, kids who are into the arts are a little bit more open into things like that. So I think it was a combination of just being on the internet, having sort of an interest in it, listening to punk music and being exposed to things like that. As well as generally the types of activities I would participate in high school were more of the rave and kind of drum circle scene, if that makes sense. And I think just purely from the types of people who go to all ages raves and stuff like that, you just end up being exposed to a lot of progressive politics that way as well.
Makes sense.